We've been wondering, what is this car? According to Polestar, this is a sporty electric hatchback with some SUV or crossover elements. What does that all mean? And why is there something missing behind me? We're gonna go find out. I'm Randy Stern, along with George Torteline, and this is Victory in Reseda. The Polestar 4 is a different vehicle from anything you have seen from the brand. Up front, there is a sleeker interpretation of the Thor Hammer LED front lighting units. They are now split into 2 units per side. The nose is clean with a grille in the lower area of the fascia. The rest of the body forms a coupe-like shape for the roofline that meets the LED horizontal taillight strip. Just above the taillight unit, there is something missing. There is no traditional back glass on the liftgate. Instead, there is a camera unit located where the glass pane should be located. Those camera lenses feed back to 2 areas, the 8.9-inch rear view mirror and the 15.4-inch center touchscreen display. The rear view mirror acts as the primary screen to look behind you. When you put the Polestar 4 in reverse, the center screen gives you both an immediate reverse view and a 360-degree overhead view. You do get side mirrors that are small and frameless. The entire unit adjusts through prompts on the center display screen. Our test vehicle came with a set of 21-inch 4-spoke forged alloy wheels on low-profile tires. Above the cabin is a fixed electrochromic glass roof panel that adjusts to allow light inside. Our test vehicle wore zinc Bridge of Weir Napa leather seats that also lighten the cabin's atmosphere. However, there are plenty of charcoal finishes that may cause some effects from the absence of the rear painted glass. The driver is treated to a 10.2-inch display behind the steering wheel, along with the center touchscreen display. As a hatchback without a rear glass pane, there is plenty of cargo space available. With the rear seats up, there's 18.6 cubic feet. You can expand that space to 54.2 cubic feet with the rear seats down. There's an additional 0.5 cubic feet underneath the front hood. Our long-range dual-motor test vehicle has a driveline that consists of 2 electric motors mounted at each axle. Together, they are rated for 544 horsepower with 508 pound-feet of torque. Electric energy comes from a 100 kilowatt-hour battery that receives its energy from a CCS plug. At a DC fast charger, you can recoup from 10 to 80% state of charge in 30 minutes at a rate of 200 kilowatts. We found that we had near 300 miles of range on a full battery using DC fast charging. We would love to tell you more. Let's join Randy and George as they take the 2026 Polestar 4 on the road.
Randy, we're driving the 2026 Polestar 4.
We are, and boy, is it different.
Sure is. You don't see designs like this on the road normally.
Well, in North America, because if you go elsewhere in the world, you will find a car that's similar to this in design.
That's a good point, although it does have one very unique feature, doesn't it?
Yes, it's missing something, I believe, and I believe we pointed that out earlier in our video.
Yeah, and you guys can see it back there.
You can.
It's just very dark back there.
But somehow, some way, it kind of works.
You do get used to having a camera in the back because you don't really look out the back window normally to check traffic. You're looking out your mirrors, maybe over your shoulder, but not so much really expecting to look out the back window physically.
It basically changes the way you drive. I mean, especially if you've been taught to look over your shoulder, taught to look through the mirror. It fits what modern drivers have taught themselves to do so far, which was rely on the mirrors.
We've been getting a lot of looks in this too, where people pull up behind us and notice there's no back window on that car, and will kind of peer in as they drive around us, checking out the vehicle because it's so unexpected. So if you're familiar with the Polestar 3, this is very reminiscent of that, but with some changes.
Absolutely. It's not an SUV. although Polestar have said that it has some elements that are SUV and crossover-like. The ground clearance, for example, it's kind of interesting because it's below 7 inches. That's one thing. So it has a stance of an SUV crossover. It's a sporty vehicle. They call it a coupe-like body style, which of course turns into a hatchback. This is what Polestar wanted to do. They want to shake the norm as far as automotive design is concerned. And they have to do so by distancing themselves from their cousin Volvo.
As well as the competition.
Exactly.
If people are looking for an EV that has some unique features, this is certainly one of those types of vehicles.
And strangely enough, it's not the only one in its class that has a hatchback style look, although one of them is not a hatchback. They have a trunk.
True.
And I thought that this had a trunk. Then I open it up and said, oh, it's hatchback.
It looks like it'd have a trunk, doesn't it?
It would, yes.
Now, being a Polestar, they're always generous with the performance.
Yes, they are. In our test vehicle, it's a dual motor setup and it's got a lot of high horsepower, but it's also very quick. So they've really put that torque into good use as far as acceleration.
And it's all just easily, just right under your foot. Just suddenly just lay the accelerator down and it just builds. And from 0 to no license in a couple seconds.
True. And you know what's interesting? This is not the performance pack. They didn't include this in our test vehicle. The performance pack would have just been a lot faster.
This is plenty fast.
Oh, plenty. That's an understatement.
Now, charging, we did do some level 2 home charging with this. And on my charger, it was about 6 hours to recoup from about 44% full battery up to 100%. And you did a level 3, didn't you?
Well, yes, at the level 3, they were able to recoup about 65 kilowatts of energy back to the battery. I unplugged at 99%, and I got a higher range than what you showed me when you did the level 2s. I think I was almost at 300 miles.
Now, what was the temperature at the time that you got that, outside temperature?
I'm going to say probably 40s, 30s.
Because when I did the charging, it was colder, but that's when it was about 30 degrees Fahrenheit.
Right, and as we know, the air temperature does affect not only the charging, but also the energy retention of the battery pack.
So it's nice that the vehicle will try to estimate your range based on factoring in a shorter range with a colder battery in a colder environment.
No, but the advantage is that that's a real world estimate based on real world conditions.
It's going to give you more true numbers rather than you noticing, hey, the numbers it's giving me aren't correct, so you don't get stranded somewhere. Now, I like how they changed to more of a landscape display rather than the portrait in the Polestar 3.
I do too. It fits perfectly for this particular cabin. It's still pretty large, about 14.7 inches.
Though I wish they would reorganize how they've got things laid out on the screen, as well as just finding what you need. It's still a little tough to get up to speed because so much is done through the screen.
Exactly. And not just that, but also there's a lot of controls where you have to go through menus in order to change. Seriously, name a control, name any function. It's in there. And to find it and get it to work,
like opening the glove box.
Oh yeah, well actually that's in our favorites.
Yeah, but you need a button for that on the infotainment screen.
And then you go to here.
It's not mechanical.
Exactly.
It's crazy. But I guess it just makes for a very clean interior with very few buttons and control knobs that if you want a minimalist kind of aesthetic, this will be right up your alley.
But that's not what customers want. Customers have told certain manufacturers, we want physical buttons, not haptic touch buttons. We want physical, good feeling buttons that have logic and operation.
Certainly for the key controls, yeah.
Exactly. If you're a tech head, or if you don't mind having to go through a central screen in order to get all the operations, yeah, this is your type of vehicle. However, there is a plus to all that, because most of the electric vehicles that I have seen have everything right here, including the speedometer. Luckily, in front of you, you have an actual display.
Right. I'm not having to look at the center infotainment screen to look at my speed and other details like state of charge.
If there is one thing that I appreciate from the Polestar 4 is the driving experience.
It's really a fun car, if you want it to be.
Exactly, because there are settings available to make it even more funner.
You can flog it around and just have a good time with it, and all that power will just shoot you out of any situation you want, and it's just a really fun car. Or you can just casually cruise with it and it'll be very quiet, even elegant. Okay, Randy, so in summary, what do we think of this 2026 Polestar 4?
There's a lot going on with this vehicle, and that's probably a good thing, because it gives you options when you go deep into the screens to the type of driving you want, but it still delivers a very solid driving experience through a very powerful dual motor setup, precise steering, and the rest of the entire package. The one thing that you may want to learn is to live without a rear glass pane. Look, the cameras do a very good job giving you the same type of vision that you would normally use when you use your mirrors when you're driving. So you may miss a rear glass, but in this particular case, I think you'll be fine. Otherwise, if you're looking for a practical, sporty, electric hatchback slash SUV slash crossover, more emphasis on hatchback than the others, I think you're gonna like this car.
In our thermal imaging test of heated surfaces in the 2026 Polestar 4, we found the heating elements of the heated seats in the front seats offer good heating element coverage from the upper back regions and down the centers of the seats. However, they do not extend into the side bolsters in the seat backs or bottoms. For the outside rear seats, the heating elements do offer very good overall coverage down the centers of the seats from the upper backs into the seat bottoms and lower thigh regions. The heated steering wheel has very good heating element coverage around its outside diameter of the wheel with sufficient warmth in the inner wheel areas. Outside, the side mirrors are heated, and as the Polestar 4 does not have a rear window, it does not need a rear window defroster. However, we found well above freezing warmth in the rear-facing camera housing to help keep the camera defrosted and clear.
There are 2 drive lines available with several packages to choose from on the 2026 Polestar 4. Pricing starts at $56,400. Our long-range dual-motor model with the Pilot and Plus packs came with a sticker price of $79,100. If you like what you watch, don't forget to click the like, subscribe, and the notification bell to find out when our next video comes out. Also, if you want to read all of our great articles, log on to victoryandreseda.net. And don't forget, we got a podcast too you can listen to in the comfort of your own vehicle. Thanks for watching.